Dudes, how's it going? Hopefully you're having a great one out there. I'm going to talk about something today that I don't really talk about so much, and I think I probably should. And it's actually based off a video I recorded on Instagram the other day, and I had so many messages about it. I was like, oh crap, I need to speak about this more because it's obviously, I think it's probably happening to a bunch of people and it's going unsaid, right? So it originally started last week when a guy messaged me over on Instagram, a bass player, and he'd had a session. He was doing like a remote session, right? And this session had gone awfully, like really bad. He'd got really bad feedback back on his parts that he'd played and a bunch of stuff, but it had all gone really badly for him. And he messaged me and he was like, look man, I'm like really finding this hard and I'm thinking about just calling it a day. And I was like, dude, don't even go there. And the reason being, and I think that this is the thing, is like this, when stuff happens, like bad stuff that's emotionally going to send you sideways, when that stuff happens, that is unfortunately, and I'm going to break this out a little bit, it's unfortunately like a really important part of being a musician. And I say an important part because there's no getting away from it. Every musician that you love, right, that you look up to, that you geek out about here on YouTube or over on Instagram or wherever it is, every single one of them musicians has got a bunch of horror stories to tell about, you know, all of the crap that happened to them. Like, and I've got so many horrible stories, like that are kind of funny. Like, and most of these stories, here's the deal: most of these stories are funny. In fact, they're all funny, but they're only funny after the fact. While it's happening, it like emotionally sort of like tortures you, right? So I've had a bunch of stuff happen to me just exactly like that. And I'm gonna tell you a couple of quick things just because some of them are funny, and then I'm gonna just talk about how we should be possibly rethinking how we look at these things that are gonna happen to us or maybe happening right now to us, because they're gonna happen. They happen to all of our heroes. They're gonna happen to us as well if we're progressing along this pathway of becoming a musician and hopefully a great musician, right? So myself, when I was around 13, I really wanted to I was getting into a little bit of guitar and I wanted to take it up at school, right? And go to classes and stuff like that at school. And my teacher dragged my parents into school to basically beg them not to let me take music at school. She said I was completely unmusical. There was no chance that I was going to have music be a part of my life. Do not let him be, you know, part of this course. Sorry, my kids are wailing. They're on the trampoline over there in the background. But yeah, she was saying, do not let him, you know, be on this music course. This was when I was 13. Now, luckily, I made it through, you know, my parents like sweet talked her somehow, whatever. Something happened and I ended up going on that, you know, that music course when I was 13, which was fantastic. But that's just one, like, you know, fast forward to when I was 16, I was doing terribly at school, and ultimately left school early. So I left school early when I was 16. I was like pretty much next to no qualifications at all. And I was still playing a bit, and really wanted to when I got to about 18, I wanted to go to music school. Well, what do you think happened when I rocked up to music school with no qualifications? They were just like, yeah, see ya, you know. So I was absolutely gutted, couldn't get into music school, and didn't know what I was going to do next. So I basically just kept on playing, kept on doing my thing, just trying to get better. And then I did obviously end up as a professional musician, as you might imagine. But the road there was super bumpy. It was super bumpy. My second professional gig, okay, was working on a cruise ship. I went to the audition, and it's so vivid. And this was like a real traumatic experience for me. I went to that audition for the cruise ship gig, okay? And I went in, walked through the door, got all my gear out and stuff like that, plugged in, and the music director was like, okay, what standards do you know? I was like, what's a standard? He was like, what do you mean what's a standard? Like a jazz standard? I was like, oh, I don't know any jazz standards. He was like, okay. He was like, can you read? Not really, no. I'm not so good at reading. Okay, can you read charts? No, I can read a chart. And he put a chart in front of me. I'm just stumbling all. He ripped it off the music stand. He's literally kind of like half making fun of me in front of the rest of the band, and then half of him is like ridiculously pissed off at me. He's just like, what are you doing here? You're wasting everybody's time who's here. All the guitar player, the guy on the keys, the kit player, all of these guys are here for you. And you've turned up and you haven't got the skills to do this job. Get out. And I was essentially thrown out of the audition. So I get back in my car. I am so upset. I'm just like really upset. I can remember driving back to Leeds. I had tears in my eyes. I was just like, this is brutal. Just like, and it really was a brutal experience. So anyway, so I get back home. I open the door. As I open the door, the phone rings. I pick up the phone and it's the musical director. And he says, Scott. I was like, yeah. He's like, you are going on this cruise ship. I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, but be under no illusion that you will be getting sent home. You're going to be getting sent home. There's no way that you are not going to be getting sent home because you can't read charts, you can't do the job, but I can't send anybody else. I've got nobody else to send. This cruise sets off you need to be in Barbados in 2 weeks' time. I can't get another bass player. You are going to have to go because the other guy had actually dropped out. He had a collapsed lung. So it was like a random thing anyway, that's why there was like, he didn't have a long timeline to find anybody else. And anyway, I went out on that cruise ship with the expectancy that I was actually going to get sent off. I thought if I can't get my shit together, in the next 2 weeks, they're going to send me home. And all of the band knew it. All of them guys that I was shouted in front of, the keys player and the drummer and the guitar player, all them guys were actually on that ship with me. So they basically felt like they'd been given this complete idiot on the bass. Anyway, it all turned out great. I went into record shops when I was over there. I bought records. I was like transcribing. I was learning. The piano player was helping me. I learned so much in the time that I was on that ship. And thankfully, I did not get sent home. I was on that cruise ship for 7 months. I had 2 nights off in 7 months. And I came off that cruise ship a completely different player. I could read charts. I knew jazz standards. I could do the thing. I could do the job that I was sent to do. But check it out. Let's rewind a little bit. My point is, these things are going to happen to you. It's just like riding a bike, okay? So if you're riding a bike, what happens when you first get on your bike? You fall off, okay? Then you get back on, and then you fall off, and then you get back on, and then you fall off. The same thing is going to happen with this thing, the same thing. But unfortunately, instead of physically hurting when you fall off, when you're on a session or on a gig or in a new situation playing with new people, and your skill level isn't where it needs to be, okay, you're going to fall off the bike. And it's going to hurt, but it's going to hurt emotionally, and it's going to hurt your ego, and it's going to be hard. But what we need to do as musicians is reframe that falling off the bike, reframe that as, okay, it's simply part of the process. I fell off the bike, I'm just going to get back on. I fall off of the bike again, I'm going to get back on. We need to, as musicians, completely reframe these situations that are going to happen because we are going to put ourselves in situations where we're not good enough, okay? Where we're not good enough. So when you think to yourself, when that happens on a gig, and you think to yourself, oh, I'm not good enough. Well, yeah, you just fell off your bike. You're not good enough. But it doesn't mean you're never going to be good enough. All of them guys and all them girls that you love, all of them music, not just bass players, all of them have fallen off the bike a million times, but they just got back on. Even when it hurt to get back on, they got back on, okay? So when they had an experience that really, really hurt them emotionally, they got back on the bike. It's really important that we reframe it and we get back on the bike. And frankly, if you are not falling off the bike, if you are not having these experiences, if you're waiting for that perfect moment to do it, well, you're not pushing yourself. You should be pushing yourself and experiencing what it feels like to fall off the bike and have those situations. And hopefully you don't go through one like I went through in that audition, which was probably the worst that I experienced. But I've got 10 or 20 more I could have used in replacement of that, which were almost as brutal. It's just, This happens to musicians or artists, to be honest, that are, trying to, get their craft together, get their skills together on their instrument. You're gonna fall off your bike. And when it happens, it's an indication that, your skill level isn't where it needs to be right now, but that's what's the work that you put in is gonna get you to that next level, okay? That's all it is an indication of you need to double down, you need to dig in, you need to grind it out a little bit more, okay? And it's another great indication that you're actually putting yourself out there in situations where you're gonna fail. But if you are out there and you are thinking about quitting this thing that you freaking love, that you've put hours and hours and weeks and months and years into, and you watch all of the cool players on Instagram and you watch all the cool players here on YouTube, and you're just fully engaged and absolutely obsessed and love this thing. If you fall off, you better not ever think about quitting. You cannot think about quitting if you simply fall off the bike, if you simply have an experience that emotionally hurts you. Trust me, you just gotta put on your armor, remind yourself that you're reframing it and you're not thinking it's not a personal attack on you. Your skill level just wasn't where it needs to be. It's fine. It doesn't mean that it's never gonna be there. You're gonna get back on the bike and you're gonna keep on going, keep pushing forward, keep on putting yourself in situations where you might fall off. And when you do, you learn from it and then you move on. And ultimately what happens is your skill level, your experience level just goes up. It just goes north. Each one of these experiences pushes you to that next level, makes you more enthused. You want to dig in more. Never think about quitting for shit like that. Never think about quitting if you've fallen off the bike and had a bad experience, because it's not worth it. And this thing, being able to play a musical instrument, is just such a freaking amazing blessing. Anyway, I just wanted to share because it really touched a nerve for me last week when that guy reached out, and it really scares me to think that there's other people out there dealing with that same kind of shit. So, pick up the bass and I'll see you in the shed. Take it easy. Bye.